Okay,
Yeah.
so welcome, Anisha Masi, for your presentation of chapter 10 of Manav Vyavhar Darshan, uh, Liberation from Affliction. And it was supposed to happen earlier, but now, luckily for us, it's happening now here in this group.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Uh, yeah. So thank you so much for having me over in this group. And, like when I was writing my notes, I wrote that I thought I'd missed the bus last month, but I think दूसरी बस आ गई. इसलिए मुझे यहाँ पे फिर से एक presentation का मौका मिल गया. And this is thanks to Drishta because उसी के अगले दिन I think you told me कि नहीं नहीं 6 सितंबर तो हुआ ही नहीं, अब हम 6 अक्टूबर और 7 अक्टूबर को ही मान लेंगे. So yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Because I was a little bummed. I've never studied before this in my life, the way I studied for this chapter in my entire life. I've not studied like this. So I was feeling a little bummed, and like I also shared that day, I don't know how many of you were there in the meeting when Sanjeev ji was, he took the session instead of me, that it felt like this Buddhist thing of mandala, where they make this rangoli for 12 days and on the 13th day they just swipe it clean and pura mita dete hain. तो इट फेल लाइक दैट बट दिस इज अ गुड अपॉर्चुनिटी. हालांकि मेरी नर्वसनेस जो तब थी वो खत्म हो गई थी, अब फिर से शुरू हो गई कि अरे मुझे फिर से प्रेजेंट करना है. बट या इट्स नाइस. तो ठीक है, I'll start with of course the first thing, immense gratitude for Babaji, and also I think I'm blessed to have met him in this lifetime. The kind of life I've lived before I came to Vidya, I don't think I would have imagined somebody with that much gyan, or rather somebody with complete gyan, ever touching my life, ever. You know, like a Divya Manav being part of my life ever. I don't think I ever imagined. So I think I'm really blessed. Also, a lot of gratitude for a lot of Prabodhaks and Sehpathis who've been with me in this journey for the last so many years, who helped me decipher Darshan a little more, definitely. And yeah, thanks to Rakesh Bhaiya for organizing this English session and also translating, because, like I was telling Rishta, while reading the English translation, there are a lot of anubhutis which got so clear for me, like within seconds. Whereas in Hindi, because Hindi is not, I shouldn't say it's sad, but it's not my natural language because I grew up in an environment which was more English speaking. So, first for his translation, Rakesh Bhaiya and his team for translating this, and secondly, giving me the opportunity to read this and present this. It's really, I've had to really push my limits, like really push my limits. I've never done something like this before, even before this, even though I've read the books a couple of times, like 3, 4 times. Manav Vyavhar Darshan, I've definitely read 4 times, but I had never read it the way I read it this time. मैंने इस तरीके की पढ़ाई नहीं करी है पूरी जिंदगी में. That. Then I also want to thank my entire English team, Chani, Gauri, Sheila Didi, because they really helped me. I mean, they've helped me so many times in the last so many years, but helped me understand this chapter better. Gauri, no, sorry, Gauri, I'm saying Drishta, Shambhai, and I think most importantly, even my husband, Anurag. It has never happened that we've sat and done Adhyan together or read together. So this was a miracle, and we did it without any yudh, without any jhagda. It was very calm, very peaceful. It was very beautiful. In fact, wo sab I'll share later. In the end, my entire process. Um, ठीक है. Hello, Chani.
Yeah.
She managed.
Hi, Anisha Di. Hi, everyone.
You made it.
Yes, from the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see it, Didi? Masi?
Yeah, I can see the screen. I'm also going to keep reading it from my screen. So, and my notes are on my screen. So, yeah. Okay. So this is chapter 10 from Manav Vyavhar Darshan, and the chapter is called Klesh Mukti in Hindi, and in English it's called. So, Dishta Bhaiya changed the word. It was affliction earlier. Now he's changed it to tribulations. So he's titled it Liberation from Tribulations now.
Right. I'd forgotten actually, I like this word better.
Yeah, yeah. ठीक है. So, it starts with, Baba says, the hope for liberation is found in all humans. So since the time of dawn, we can see that humans have been trying to find liberation, freedom from tribulations and conflicts. And the fact that we are still trying means we still have hope. And this hope is found in all humans across the planet. We can see a lot of people, still working on it and trying to figure out what can be done to get humankind rid of all the conflict, the wars, whatever, all the chaos which is there. But this also means that we haven't found the answer. This also means because we're still trying, we still haven't got our answers. In the next Anubhuti, Babaji says, the endeavors for liberation have differentiation as liberation from unhappiness and liberation from delusion. Every study, worship, experiment, behavior, occupation, practice, and dedication has been undertaken towards these only. There has not been any evidence or path for liberation which is achievable through studying in the past traditions. It is for this reason alone that this proposal has been presented for liberation from delusion. Excuse me. So when we look at most studies, worship, experiments, behaviors, occupation, practices, and dedication towards something, it's all because humans have wanted liberation from unhappiness or liberation from delusion. And when we look at past traditions, we find no evidence of this liberation. We see a lot of thoughts and philosophies around the world, Eastern and Western philosophies have tried various methods to help mankind be free from affliction, conflicts, etc. But there's still so much struggle and strife. We might have found some relief in some of these, but we can still see conflict around us at in all the aspects of being, like our anubhav, thought, behavior, work, and in all the levels of our living, which is person themselves, family, society, nation, internations as well. So he's saying for this reason, he has a proposal to help mankind be free of delusion and free of tribulations. In the next Anubhuti, he says, study elucidates the constitution, process, conduct, result, and purpose of every entity. So now Babaji is proposing that using the same 8 methods that have been used in tradition, one can find liberation from delusion. And he starts with elaborating on studying. So he says by studying, we get clarity about every entity's constitution, what it's made up of, the anshas in it, its combinations, the process, that is, what is the activity that's happening inside it, and then conduct, how does it behave within its kind and also with different kinds of entities. Then is result, if it is an evolving constitution atom, then it will change. And at some point, that change will equate to an evolved atom, like a Jeevan atom. And for a Jeevan atom, that would mean refinement and finally a state of activity completeness, and its purpose. What is its purpose in existence? Why is it there? So further, he's elaborating a bit more on the study part. And so he's saying, rather, he's elaborating a little bit more on what is it that we're studying. So yeah, he says the form and attributes have changing nature, while the elements have perpetual nature, as they are found in all the 4 orders of nature. The basic element in the constitution of all large entities is the atom. The constitution principle of atoms of all elements is the same. An atom consists of a nucleus and orbiting particles, all orders of nature arise from the activeness of particles in atoms and their position in the development progression, sorry. So then he goes on to elaborate this study and says, Roop and Gun, that is form and attributes, are changeable. So I'm assuming कि studying that is a very, very vast area. Plus, elements are never changing. They are part of all the four orders. And most importantly, what does not change is going to be universal and sarkalic or eternal perennial. So studying that makes more sense. Now, in the material order, plant order, animal order, and knowledge order,
One
the
second.
basic, sorry.
I just wanted to remind mommy to scroll because on the screen we can't see.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
So now in the material order, plant order, animal order, and knowledge order, the basic element in all these is an atom. And constitutionally, all the atoms are the same, as in they all have a particle in the center called nucleus, and then there are particles that orbit around it. The nucleus holds the atom together. Now, when we look at all the orders in existence, all four orders, they all have come out of the Padartha atom. And that's so beautiful. The difference in between them is because of the activity and growth in them, the evolution in them. We'd also, I think, studied this in chapter 4. I remember Shubha Didi had explained it very well. Next, Anubhuti says, study itself is worship. The authentic human is a teacher in whose proximity study takes place. Through study, one attains the authority of innateness and independence by achieving absolute resonance and absolute accordance with understanding. So in the older version of MVD, Babaji has written that with Upasana worship, you get to be proximate with the Ish, the ideal. And what is the ideal? It is to be awakened. So Babaji is saying that the study itself is worship. As in the study that we just detailed out in the previous Anubhuti, that itself is worship. And we do that worship to get closer to our ideal, which is to be awakened. And the teacher, who is an authentic human being, fully realized being. And in his proximity, the study takes place. So initially, the ideal is the teacher. And eventually, the ideal is the quality that that teacher embodies. Like Manvya Swabhav, Vishaya Drishti, Manyutapurn Acharan. And once we are in absolute resonance and absolute accordance with the ideal, with understanding, then we have the authority to live with innateness and independence. And independence means to be operating from the realized Atma. He is defining teacher. He says the teacher is the one who imparts enlightenment of truth in the form of coexistence with the realization-based method through the realization-oriented methodology. So Babaji defines the teacher as one who lives it and passes on his knowledge of coexistence. In the next Anubhuti, he says, the objects of utility are identified through experimentation. So he goes on to talk about another method, that is experimentation. Basically, he's doing a placement of all the ways in which we humans have tried to be free of tribulation. So here he is saying that when we experiment, we find out about what is the utility of an object. Like it might have been the wheel or, planting, grafting of a plant, making an aeroplane. So in the beginning, it was all an experiment. And at some point, when we succeeded in the experiment, it became an object or a thing that is of some utility to us, some use to us. It has some value to us. It's basically an endeavor to make our life easier and feeling ki, bhai, what will make us free from unhappiness or conflict? Let's, try and experiment and create that. And the importance of experimentation is also that we don't just reject things theoretically, we try to create it. We try it out, and then on the basis of the result, we conclude, is this really adding value to our life or not? Also, another very important thing to keep in mind here is that just by experimentation, we're not going to get Brahm Mukti. In fact, I see that all these 8 methods that Baba's mentioning, together they will help us, they will liberate us from delusion and make us, more Jagrat person. Next Anubhuti is the objects of utility are obtained and made plentiful through production. So in this Anubhuti, he is talking about production and multiplication of a product or thing. So if we talk about the last 2 Anubhutis together, he's saying that humans do an experiment to make their lives better. So there is lesser drudgery, which is equal to conflict. And when the experiment is successful, we multiply it and make it available for everyone. The other point that comes here is that whatever object we have created and are going to multiply, it's going to support this sadhan called the human body, which is needed to understand and get realized, and then to help others understand too. Matlab, till the time this body is alive, we need physical facilities to facilitate its being and help us with realization too, and also help in, establishing the human order. Next, he says, the perfection in skill, proficiency, and mastery becomes evident through practice. Here, he's talking about practice. Practice in our thinking to have mastery in it, practice in our work to be skilled in it, and practice in our behavior to have proficiency in it. Next Anubhuti, he says, study for human goals in the light of justice, dharma, and truth occurs through dedication. Dedication leads to realization. Realization is only in the truth. The realization in the ultimate truth as coexistence itself is liberation from delusion in Jeevan. So, humans go anything, wanting to join IIT, travel to moon, become a designer, etc. So here Baba is drawing our attention to the human goal, the universal goal that will lead to realization, undivided society, and universal orderliness. And in the light of justice, dharma, and truth, that's resolution, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence, which can be achieved with committed study. And this committed study will lead to realization. Next, he says the omnipresent omnipotence is permeative and transparent, while deities are many. So, as I want to know, he is connecting this back to the ideal that he was talking about in the previous Anubhuti, I think 4th Anubhuti. And he's saying that ideal can be of 2 types. One is Vyapar. It is the source of energy. It is permeative, transparent, and available to us all in the same form, same way and same form. And it's stable. The other he's saying is Devi Devta, someone who's endowed with attributes, nature, and goal of a divine human. This Devi Devta's definition I took from Paribhasha Sahita. Then he's defining ideal. He says identification of excellence along with reverence and trust upon ending of delusion is the ideal in coexistence. So he's just defining ideal. Next, he says the realization is only through continuity of dedication to the ideal of awakening. So in this line, Babaji is saying that when we have continuous dedication towards the ideal, that is awakening, only then can we have realization. Without that dedication, awakening की संभावना कम है. Next Anubhuti says the Jeevan element has immortal nature, which is why every human being has the opportunity to evidence the ability of realizing the eternal omnipotence. So the Jeevan element is going to be eternal. It is not going to change in its form or in its structure. It is not going to give or take any particles from another atom. It is going to remain constitutionally complete. And now it's going to be like that forever. And so now it has, rather we humans have the eternal opportunity to evidence the ability of realization. As both Jeevan and omnipotence are eternal, and Jeevan can access omnipotence constantly and eternally. Next Anubhuti says that whose existence is not proven without another is referred to as relative. So here I'm not sure why this line came here. Maybe somebody else can explain, but I mean, in very simple terms, I can say that he's saying that there are two things needed for something to be referred to as relative. But, reading the Anubhutis before this and after this, I couldn't connect it to any part, either the beginning or, whatever, later part. So, if one of you has understood, or if, Drishta, you have some insight, or anybody wants to add something to it, can, because I really couldn't connect it to anything.
As we tried figuring it out a few times together, even I don't know why this is over there.
Yeah.
Have you checked the original?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Then I won't try.
Yeah, so it's like so maybe we can mark it, and maybe we can all try it together after this session.
Yeah.
कि कहाँ जुड़ता है?
Maybe it is that Prakriti and Vyapak, है ना? The are both together, or each one cannot be cannot. There is no evidence of one without the other.
So he does mention that, and I think there's another Anubhuti where he does say that very clearly, that it cannot be separated. They can't be avibhajya hai. That just does come out clearly, but इस line का यहाँ what is the sandarbh is something which is because he's not talking about anything being relative before this or after this. So yeah.
A mystery.
Or he was talking about realization is only of coexistence, right?
Yeah.
And so then all the Prakriti in existence is relative to each other. ऐसा भी हो सकता. Far, but I mean, जबरदस्ती वाली बात है. Let's get.
Let's
ठीक है.
think about it, huh?
Yeah, let's think about it, and maybe at the end of the session, either today or the next session, we'll try and figure it out together. Next Anubhuti is, so I'm going to combine the next two Anubhutis as they connect with each other. Non-accumulation gives rise to the tendency of seedlessness, the result of which manifests in the form of comprehensive resolution from understanding and prosperity from physical labor. And then he defines non-accumulation and says the earning done for spending is referred to as non-accumulation, and its righteous spending is imperative. This is accomplished through rightful ownership of wealth. So non-accumulation will give birth to seedless tendency, which means one's thoughts are desire-free, free from progeny desire, wealth desire, and reputation desire too. And the definition of non-accumulation he gives is earning done to spend rightfully and not to accumulate. And this is done with one's own money. You spend your own money, swadhan, basically using it for something or action that is taking you towards vikas and not haras. Like, घर की व्यवस्था, अपनी needs जो भी हैं उसके लिए, and of course needs identify करके, and more than that we'll use it for serve show. So seedless tendency is in divyamana or divine human state. That means you're in a state of only being benevolent, and in that state, why would you want to accumulate? Like, then he says non-accumulation happens only through the determination of non-doership or through indolence. So here Babaji is saying that this non-accumulation can happen only in two ways. One is non-doership and the other is indolence. And then he goes on to define them. So non-doership is not engaging in unworthy actions, and embracing worthy actions itself is freedom from unnecessary activities. This itself is non-doership. All the activities performed due to delusion themselves are bondage and lead to tribulation. The remedy lies in non-doership, where actions are performed with awakening based on realization that brings about resolution, happiness, and well-being. This in itself is accomplishment and prosperity. So, non-doership he defines as not doing what you're not supposed to do and doing what is vidivihit. And he says that that itself is freedom, liberation from doing unnecessary things. So whatever we do in the state of delusionment, that is bondage, and that is what leads to conflict inside us also and our interactions with the world around us. Like in many traditions, they say that a seeker should have austere habits, and so either the seeker has to give up their home, family, live in minimal clothes, beg or ask for food. And this we can see leads to a lot of conflict, tribulation, and chaos either within oneself or in family or in society. So now Babaji is saying that you don't have to do all this. Instead, you just have to stop being a manvya. And he's saying that the cure for this non-doership, he's defining is as doing actions that are worthy, necessary. Where the actions are done with understanding and resolution. So like creating manvya vyavastha, manvya shiksha sanskar, etc. And like, if you take an example from Baba's life, then even during sadhana kal, Babaji was still working, living and, like a normal person does, and playing with the kids, doing kheti, growing stuff. He didn't stop. He hadn't given up doing. And uske baad, also, he continuously kept doing all those things and eagerly worked for others' Jagrati as well. So there was no stopping like this doing thing. Next, Anubhuti says dispassion from delusion in itself is non-doership. Inhumaneness is unworthy for every human. Not doing what is unworthy itself is non-doership. So he's saying when we are not attracted to delusion, it is non-doership. And again, he's emphasizing that not doing what is not worth doing is non-doership. And what we should not be doing is be a manvya, to have inhuman perspective of pleasant health, profit, inhuman instincts, eating, sleeping, defending, mating, to live in inhuman intrinsic nature of servileness, treacherousness, cruelness. Then he says non-doership is from dispassion to delusion, while indolence is from lack of initiative. Then he is differentiating how non-doership and indolence happen. So he says that non-doership will happen with non-attraction or dispassion. That's the word Bhaiya has used. And indolence is happening due to lack of effort or inertia. Then he says dispassion means freedom from attachment, which is being without the flaws of over-evaluation, under-evaluation, and mis-evaluation. So he's elaborating what he means by dispassion. He says dispassion is freedom from attachment or not being immersed in the four wishes or, the five sensations. And this attachment happens when we don't evaluate something rightly. We don't evaluate its place in existence, its role in our lives, and we either over, under, or misevaluate it. So being free from over, misevaluation, over, under, or misevaluation, in other words, to see the reality for what it is being free from attachment. Then he says, no entity has the right to be free from initiative, or it has not been proven by any entity. Thus, human attempt to become free from initiative is indolence, which is denoted as a flaw of laziness and carelessness. So here Baba is drawing our attention to the fact that there is no entity in the universe that has the authority to be free from activity or effort motion result, and neither has it been proven by any entity. But if you look at all human beings, we are all constantly trying ki, how do we not have to do something? How do we get the most with the least amount of effort? How do we avoid shram? How can we rest more and work less? Actually, what we're looking for is effortlessness, but we are seeking that in the state of rest. But no entity can be free from activity as it's just our design. But this attempt to be free from initiative is what Babaji is calling indolence, which happens due to laziness or carelessness. Then he's defining all these words, and indolence, he says, is indolence manifests in the form of laziness and carelessness, which is trying to escape from action. So Baba is saying that attempt to free oneself from work, or in other words, trying to escape from action, is defined as indolence, and it can manifest. Did I just repeat that? Yeah. Yeah. It manifests in the form of laziness and carelessness. Then he defines laziness, and he says laziness is not doing some work in spite of believing it to be right and its utility proven. So, he's saying, he's defining laziness, ki not doing something in spite of knowing and believing it to be the right thing to do. Like, we know that exercising is good for us, yes, yet a lot of us don't do it. Or we know that Adhyan of the Darshan will do us good, but we don't do it. Yeah. Then he defines carelessness. Carelessness is the state of desired activity not happening due to a lack of knowledge about the work whose utility is proven. So he says carelessness is something whose utility is proven around us, like, in family, in tradition, or around us, and yet we don't do it because we don't have knowledge about it, or we don't make the effort to get to know more about it. Then, dispassion can be either partial or complete. Partial dispassion is evidenced in the humane human stage, while complete dispassion is evidenced in the divine human stage. This is in the order of priority towards tendency of benevolence. So he's saying that dispassion is of two types, partial or complete. Now, partial dispassion is seen in humane human stage, which means ki there is no attraction towards the 4 instincts and 5 sensations, but there is still an attraction towards the 3 ashnas or righteous desires. And complete dispassion is evidenced in the divine human stage, in which there is no desire left, but only the tendency of benevolence to help and inspire others to live with resolution and prosperity. And also making effort to establish a humane system. And they do this without attachment. So like even if Babaji would ask us to study or do adhyan and we didn't do it or didn't take it seriously, he didn't get unsettled or disturbed. There was no attachment in that sense ki, maine bola hai, to somebody needs to do something like that. Beautiful. Next, so I'll combine the next two anubhutis as they are connected to each other. It says all affirmative internal and external human activities are generative and mediative. And the next one is the sentient aspect is referred to as internal and the insentient aspect along with the body is referred to as external. So in the above two anubhutis, he's saying ki affirmative or favorable activities like living with the family, doing utpadan, creating material for shiksha sanskar, are either generative or mediative, whether we are thinking about it or doing some action with the body. The internal is the sentient aspect, which is with all the kriyas in it, and where all the thinking is happening, and the external is the insentient, which also includes the body. Next, he says the excess of generative, that's creation, becomes the cause of degeneration, while the excess of degenerative, dissolution, becomes the cause of generative activity.
Anisha,
This cycle, Hanji,
one anubhuti got missed out.
Which one?
The sentient aspect is referred to.
I just read that.
Acha.
Yeah, I'd combine the
there must be
all
something.
affirmative wali and the sentient aspect together.
Okay.
Yeah. So the excess of generative becomes the cause of degeneration, while the excess of degenerative becomes the cause of generative activity. This cycle of composition and decomposition can be observed in the gross or insentient activities. So he's talking about, I think, Jad Prakriti mein kaise hota hai. So I see excess of generation in the form of an example as, you see the growth of a leaf or a tree, a fruit tree, which would have reached its optimal growth. So we'll say the optimal growth or creation would be the point where, the fruit is ready to like now fall off, or the leaves are ready to fall off. That's its optimal level. After that, it can't grow anymore. So it's going to fall off. And when the fruit and leaf fall down, they ripen, get old, fall down. And after it falls down, it's basically when it falls off is when the degeneration starts in a way. And then so it's reached its optimal point. It's fallen down. Now, once it's fallen down, it's decomposing. And while it's decomposing, it reaches a certain optimal point of degeneration. That is only when it will be useful for the next set of plants, or, whatever, maybe if it's the same tree, to become nutrient for that particular thing. So I think what Babaji is saying is that this cycle of generation and degeneration, they feed into each other, and this can be observed in gross this thing over here. That's why he's bringing our attention to it. Then he says, after awakening, humans are mediative, which is their natural state of being. So humans are mediative after awakening. Next Anubhuti says, the state of being itself is mediative, encompassing from creation to dissolution and from dissolution to creation. It means it also manifests in the gross activities. The activity is not just a state of being, because no activity is free from change and transformation. Therefore, only omnipotence is the absolute state of being. Sthiti, he's talking about sthiti here, and I see it as state of stability, stabilizing of something. So in a very loose language, it's like, hanging on to something. And Babaji is calling it madhyas, that is not affected by anything. If you look at the same example as above, then the life of a plant from its inception to when it starts decaying is one span. And then from that, decay to complete decomposition is another span. Now, in both cases, at a subtle level, there are a lot of changes happening. But at a gross level, if one looks at it, तो ऐसा लगता है कि वो बना ही हुआ है in that state. Nothing is happening to it. Then he's saying that activity is not just a state of being or stabilizing, it's also changing, transforming. Like if you look at atom, hydrogen atom is stable as a hydrogen atom, but inside the atom, the electrons and protons are all in activity. And there is a possibility of the atom to give or take another particle and change into another kind of atom. So even though it seems like there is a state of being, it is actually changing, as no activity is free from change. At the atomic level, it will keep transforming till it becomes a Jeevan atom, and then it is free from structural change, and it is stable now. But now it also needs qualitative mediation. So it will keep changing and refining itself depending on the plane it is in. The only thing that is 100% stable and will never have any change is omnipotence or Vyapak. Next it says, every atom in itself is a mediative activity. The development in atom continues until it requires the potential, ability, and receptivity for mediation of generative and degenerative attacks. So here I found it very funny, the word attacks, or in the Hindi one, like it says akraman. It, like the picture it gives you is like somebody's attacking negatively. So he's saying that in the center of every atom is a nucleus that helps the atom stay stable. the atom stays stable because the nucleus's potential, ability, and receptivity to mediate the positive and the negative assaults. So here he's saying how mediation is going to be in an atom. Next he says, in a completely developed and awakened unit,
Sorry,
awakened Jeevan. Sorry.
I just thought I'd put it, although you have cleared it up, but in the written version of the translation, it's saying until it acquires the ability, potential, and receptivity to mediate the generative and degenerative attacks. But as you were saying, it is actually until it, as long as it has the potential, ability, and receptivity to mediate the generative and degenerative attacks. So the atom will remain as long as it can mediate all sorts of generative and degenerative attacks. Not until it acquires. Once it's acquired, it will not stop mediating. It
Yeah.
will happen only as long as it does have that.
Right.
Once the assaults exceed its capacity, exceed its potential and ability, then it will degenerate.
Right.
So yeah, it was as you had explained, but I think it's in the translation that.
Yeah. But I think even in the Hindi it says na madhyastikaran ki kriya sampann karne yogya.
Shamta paryant.
Paryant.
So until all of this is there,
That's how.
as long as it is there,
Hmm.
after that it won't be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, Agi says, in a completely developed and awakened unit, awakened Jeevan, the Atma adhering activities of Buddhi, Chit, Vritti, and Man are regulated through the mediation procedure, which itself leads to establishing happiness, peace, contentment, and bliss. So, saying in a completely awakened Jeevan, Atma is now a mediative activity. And now all the other activities in the Jeevan are regulated by it. Everything is aligned to Gyan. All the realization in the Atma is now reflected onto the Buddhi, reflected onto the Chit, where all your imagination, your Chitran is aligned with purpose and with orderliness. Then to Vritti, where all your thoughts that are in the Vritti are according to justice, dharma, truth. And then your actions from Man are all aligned to the Gyan in the Atma. And hence there is happiness, peace, contentment, and bliss. Basically, it is the alignment of the Kriyas with Atma that is realized in existence. So here is saying how mediation is going to be in a Jeevan atom, and this is a qualitative mediation. Next he says, no unit is exempt from activity. The activities are generative, degenerative, and mediative. As described above, there is no balance within generative and degenerative activities. Therefore, a unit is balanced by mediative activity through the mediation procedure. Thus, only the activity of mediative gets evidenced while generative and degenerative prove to be in its regulation. So, like we've already understood by now that every unit in existence is always active and activity is equal to unit, which translates to the three kriyas in the unit, the activities of generative, degenerative, and mediative. And that there is no balance between the generative and degenerative activities. It's like a pendulum. Sometimes the generative activity is more prominent, predominant rather, and at other times it's the degenerative. But what gets evidenced is the mediative, as generative and degenerative is regulated by the mediative. Then he says there is no possibility for a unit to be inactive. This is self-explanatory, and I think in this one chapter, Babaji said this so many times. I'm wondering what is he trying to drill into us, because he said it like in I think 4 or 5 different ways in different anubhutis. Next, he says humans have mediation of behavior through justice, mediation of thoughts through resolution, dharma, and mediation of realization through knowledge. So now this mediation stabilizing in our behavior happens only when you understand justice. When in our behavior we start behaving based on orderliness and relationships. It's not based on pleasant health and profit. Also, then your behavior will be sthir and stable, and others can, also see that. Similarly, with dharma, your thoughts are stabilized according to order, and mediation of realization happens through gyan, knowledge of Jeevan, knowledge of the holistic view of coexistence, and knowledge of humane conduct. Basically, saying how mediation is going to be seen in humans. Then he says the entire human behavior is regulated through law. The law becomes evident in the form of conduct of humans. So now he's talking about definite conduct, and that humans will be definite in their conduct if we follow the societal laws. That is rightfully earned wealth, rightful man-woman relationship, kindness and burden behavior. And this becomes evident in the way we conduct ourselves, that is in our living, with Mulya Charitra Naitikta, or value character ethics. I'm yet to get used to the English words. Then he says, thought is regulated only through resolution, which is the evidence of awakening. So regulation in our thoughts will happen by knowing all the whys and hows of existence, and by following or living with intellectual laws of non-accumulation, affection, learning, simplicity, fearlessness. And when one lives like that, then it is an evidence of an awakened human. And then he says realization happens only in omnipresence, which is space. So the previous anubhutis, like just before these, the two anubhutis before this, he's talking about how different aspects of human being get regulated. Behavior gets regulated by laws, thoughts get regulated by resolution. And here in this anubhuti, he's talking about anubhav, ayam, and we see ki anubhav is constantly regulated as it is in Vyapak. As Vyapak is the only thing that is 100% stable, and stability means mediativeness. Thank you. Today we decided to do it till here, and I think next week sometime we'll go ahead and go further and finish the rest of the chapter. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Masi. So yes, we've done quite a bit of this chapter, and we finished just in time, almost. It's just 5 minutes to 3.
Yeah, I can just see that.
Yeah. But if there's anything that you'd like to share about it, or anyone else would like to ask or share about this, then we can still take some time for that.
Really good. Really interesting. I just want to know about that last line. Seems very interesting. That anything that is stable is mediated. No, you said, what's the last line you said?
Yeah. Basically, anubhav matra vyapakta mein hai, jo shunya hai, realization happens only in omnipresence. That one, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So, so how I understand it is that, the anubhav is, when we talking about anubhav, the anubhav is happening in Vyapak, right? We are all in Vyapak. And this anubhav, that this realization is happening in Vyapak. And Vyapak itself is stable. It's the most stable thing right now in existence. And of course, like it's nothing's going to change in it, right? It is wo bana rahega वैसे ही. And sthir rahega. So when we are having, when one has anubhav in it, so because you are in it and you're having this realization, so I'm guessing ki there will be stability in you also. There will be mediativeness in you also. That's how I understand it.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, very beautiful.
And
thank you.
Yeah. Rishta or Shira, anybody else, if you want to add something to it?
Yeah, no, exactly. That only. That because mediativeness itself is a regulation so that something remains balanced. Therefore, stability is, the ultimate mediativeness.
Yeah.
So,
Anything?
yeah, maybe at one point, jitne bhi, all the anubhutis that are there, how will it connect to the chapter,
Yeah.
which you have been doing in between? But there are
Yeah.
some that just kind of hang there,
Yeah.
seem to
Yeah.
hang.
Yeah.
So,
So I think when I finish the chapter, I'll
yeah,
bandhu it together.
right.
Babaji's also bandhu it together in his, gol 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 wala sutra in the end. But I'll also do it in, my way.
Great.
And I think then one will be able to connect it better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Maza aa gaya.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anything you wanted to share, Masi, about when you were preparing, or anything that stood out to you that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, there's a lot to share about this entire process. I think itni jagah pe dhyan gaya jahan where I think I had not paid attention at all. It's been so many years with the book, and I think it's just a very personal thing. It's nothing to do with what Baba's written, but I think I had a beautiful journey deciphering this chapter. Um, because till now, every time I read the book, I would read each sutra like individually. I'd never read it like like I read a fiction book or I read another non-fiction book. I never read it like that. I read it like one sutra at a time. This is the first time that I have read things together, connected the entire chapter together, connected everything together. And so for me, that was a very beautiful process. It's um, like I said, I've never been into padhai. I've never padhoed in my life. So this was very new to me, this whole process of studying something like this. So if you're reading fiction, you're not like, you're connecting the thoughts, but you don't have to present it to somebody. So you're not, carrying the whole thing together like a lot. And if you're reading non-fiction also, you keep picking up things, and that's about it. You don't connect ki this person said this earlier, now ye wo, jo bhi, matlab. And with darshan, it was even more difficult because the sutras themselves are not easy. Like, Hindi mein to aur bhi nahi hota. So it was quite a beautiful process for me to first be able to do that and to be able to get it. Oh, okay, now I get what he's saying. So that was a beautiful process for me. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share.
Okay, thank you. And we'll hear more next time.
Yes, next time, sometime next week, I'll confirm the date with you. We have some personal engagements, so anytime next week, which is suitable, I'll let you know. Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to thank everybody for being here and listening to me.
It was great.
Prachi is there. Hi, Prachi.
Prachi is also come. We were just
I just noticed
of her yesterday.
I came to just see you guys only. Like I came.
Oh, so sweet. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to see you join. It's like all my favorite people are there.
Yeah.
Everyone
And
I with, well, Prachi's been a while, but we all meet regularly otherwise. You're there in my minds. Well, you're all there in my one mind.
in my minds.
I thought you'd add a say in mind space.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
ठीक है.
Still,
I
we
can't.
haven't reached in that one. So, yeah, which
In
we use
Parichay?
regularly. Yeah, translations. Yeah.
In the translations, the ones that are happening Tuesday, Saturday, that's on chapter 15 just now.
No, which we used to do.
Oh, sorry, our translation, Parichay, that's on
Parichay.
video number 14.
Oh.
So we are also talking about Anubhav and evidence and realization and truth. Yeah, that's a really nice video. I think anyone, even if you're not like studying the whole book or reading, going through the whole recording, I think you should all watch the 14th video of Baba's recording of Parichay. It's very good.
Oh. The other thing I was thinking was like, Anisha Didi said ki, this chapter was so good for me. So many things opened up and stuff like that. I also felt the same thing about my chapter, and other people have also expressed about their chapter. Imagine if we did the same thing with all the chapters.
Yeah, yeah. No, bilkul, bilkul.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, in
kind
fact,
of
while
very
doing this, I also got pumped कि maybe every morning I'll sit down. So मैं सुबह रोज 4:30 बजे उठ के पढ़ रही थी, which has never happened before. So when I was studying this, I was like, यार बाकी सारे chapters के लिए भी maybe I should make this effort. But I don't know without the presentation अगर वो उस तरीके का effort निकलेगा. I don't know.
We
Yeah,
can think
let
of
me.
something
अभी
like
लोहा
that.
गर्म है. Maybe one will continue.
We can think of something like that, no? Shuffle up the presentations and just present to one another so that we study it at least.
Yeah, but see, it took me 2.5, 3 months to prepare this. So you can only imagine बाकी जो भी होगा उसमें भी उतना ही मतलब एक साल में 2 या 3 चैप्टर ही होंगे.
कहते हैं ना वातावरण is needed, so we have to make this kind of वातावरण.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल.
Very mediative environment.
Yes, yes, yes. बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल. Is Manjuji saying something? Because the
Not
mic is
really.
off. Oh, अच्छा. I thought your mic was off and कुछ आवाज आ रही थी तो मुझे लगा शायद you're saying something.
No, I wasn't saying anything. Mic is on, I think. Or it's not.
It is.
So I'm sitting in the garden and there's tree cutting going on. Lopping is going on. So I'm a little distracted, but I could make out most of it. I have to listen to this care.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you can, if you've heard all of us who did presentations of this, we've read these several times before. Even then, it was our first time really getting it. So
Yeah.
hearing it once is nothing. Like,
Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
completely
Yeah.
understandable if you didn't catch
Yeah.
from it, because obviously none of us did either.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And like Darshan is still difficult, but I remember Parichay. I must have read Parichay 4-5 times, but every time I read it, I was like, ये तो मैंने पहले नहीं पढ़ा, ये तो मैंने पहले नहीं पढ़ा, and I was like, ये कैसे miss हो
Exactly.
गया? जबकि it's a simpler English compared to the Darshan. You're like, how did you miss this? But I think, every time you read it, your attention goes to one particular thing, and you probably carry that while reading it, and the next time, आप वो पात्रता शायद बढ़ जाती है, तो आप और चीज पे ध्यान चला जाता है.
Yeah.